George here. Today I want to talk about something a bit different. So, as a lot of you already know, I've been training for a 50-mile ultramarathon at the moment, and unfortunately I've begun to develop shin splints in one of my legs, and whilst I've been not admitting that to myself for some time now and kind of pretending to myself that it's not there, it is there and it's getting worse, and the more I run on it, the worse it's going to get. And so I've had to make the decision not to run this ultra. Obviously, I'm gutted about this. You know, it's training was going really well. I got over a previous injury where I managed to put an axe in my knee, had stitches because of that. Not a good thing to do. I really wouldn't suggest it. But yeah, anyway, I got over that. I've been training for months now, really enjoying it, really looking forward to this, let alone a £70 investment in the entrance fee. So yeah, it's not good. I'm frustrated and angry about it. But what I want to do a short video just to look at injury and the disappointment associated with it and how to deal with that and how to take what's not a good time, what's really a negative, you're feeling down about it, and how to take that and try to at least look at it in a slightly positive light and how to come back from it. So the first point I want to raise is you've got to know when to make the call. You know, we're always told today in sort of motivational video society, whatever, it's this idea of no pain, no gain. You've got to push through, you're never going to get there if you don't push through. And I think there's definitely a place for that, and in many cases it's true, but in the case of injury, for example, you've got to weigh it up. And is the negatives of not pushing through, the negatives of giving into it, is that going to be better in the long term than pushing through it and then ending up with a long time out, for example? My running is kind of a perfect example of that. So I actually caught the shin splints fairly early, and once it started hurting badly, I took 2 weeks off. And by the end of that 2 weeks off, which was still 2 weeks in advance of the ultra, they pretty much stopped hurting, and I ran again, and I could feel it, but it wasn't painful. Now, I'm sure I could have finished that 50-miler, certainly in terms of the shin splints anyway. I don't think it would have been an issue, and I would have got through it. The issue is, by the end of that, what state would my shin have been in then? And I think it would probably have been a case where I would have then had to take probably 2, 3, 4 months off or whatever. And in the long term, although I'm completely gutted by not running this ultra, I'm angry, frustrated about it, I think I've got to cut my losses, you know? You've got to cut your losses and know when to stop. And that's what I've had to do in this case, and I think that's a very important thing to keep in mind. In the long term, does it make sense for you to do it? Because I could have done this, but what implications would that have further down the line? The other thing with injury and the disappointment caused by it, you've got to learn from it. Everything in life is a teacher. At least I think that's the case, and I think it's a very good way to look at life. And whilst this is a frustrating thing, it's not a good thing, definitely not a positive, you can learn from it. And so in my case, it was to do with what caused it, what was the training involved that isn't a good idea. So with me, this running, the situation was I think where it came about from is that I'd been in Oxford for a week, and at the same time I was trying to change my technique, so I'm trying to up my cadence with running to more steps per minute, which will help my technique in the long run. The issue was that I did 2 long runs in Oxford on the pavement, a 50-mile and a 10-mile, and because of trying out this new technique and finding I could run faster and longer, I did those 2, they were meant to be long runs done slow and easy for endurance. I did them too fast, and I was running sort of 7-minute miles, 7.5-minute miles for pretty much 15 miles straight, and I'm not ready for that. It was too much training, and then with an interval session as well later in the week, that was what put it over the edge. And so by using these negatives, the injury, as to learn from them, so I can learn what was wrong about my training and what not to do, I know not to do it again in the future. Another thing that I think is important with injury is that, or disappointment in general to be honest, is don't wallow in self-misery. Whilst it is frustrating, it does make you angry, it's not good, don't dwell on that. Instead, channel that into positive motivation. So I can't run at the moment, or at least I'm taking some time off. I think it's not a good idea to be running at the moment. So what I'm doing instead is I'm going really heavy on the strength training. I'm really trying to get my climbing up to scratch. I'm looking at cold tolerance and breath holding practice. And I'm channeling that into that frustration, I'm channeling into positive motivation to really push these other areas.
Yeah, that's it.
And then when I do get back to running, you know, I've got an ultra organised, I've got a multi-stage ultra in Fiji in April, which is, you know, that's going to be fantastic. And so I'm channeling this motivation, not being able to do this ultra, I'm going to come back around, I'm going to come back stronger, and I'm going to really push it. I'm getting hold of a tyre, so that I'm going to start dragging the tyre up the hill. I can't run, but as long as I'm walking, there's not that impact, so I'm going to be dragging the tyre up and down the hill near me. Sounds ridiculous, but you know, I really can get fired up about that because I can't do what I want to do, so I'm going to turn it round and push that motivation into something else. And I think that's an important way to look at it, because it allows us to change something that's incredibly negative into an energy to be positive about things. So I hope that's been interesting. I'm sorry for the slightly morose turn on this video, but I think it's an important issue to address. And the key points I want to make are, firstly, know when to cut your losses. It's all very well to be told to push on and, you know, get through it, the grit of pushing on through, but you've got to know when to cut it, because if that's going to cause, in the long term, detriment you further, then that's not a good idea. And we've got to know when to judge that and know when to stop. And then when you are in that situation of injury, disappointment or whatever, try and look at it in a positive light. So learn from it. Everything's a teacher. Learn from it. And then secondly, channel that into positive motivation and come back stronger. You know, when a bone breaks, it heals back stronger. And I think that analogy works well for this. If, you know, we've got an issue, we're down, we're going to come back stronger from that. And the situation of being in that position, the opportunity to come back even stronger, that can be incredibly powerful motivation, and make the most of it. So I hope this has been interesting. I hope it's been maybe a change of perspective on what can be not such good times, and so like the disappointment I'm currently in. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.